we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Chris, thank you, brother. We appreciate all you guys for being here today. Hit that like button. All right, a good NFL draft weekend. We got Mike Gill, who's set to join us right now to talk about it all. He joins us here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to his show on 97.3 ESPN Down the Shore. Subscribe on his YouTube channel. Follow him on X and all the platforms. Mike, welcome to the program this Wednesday morning. How you doing today, my friend?
Doing all right, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah, we're all, the Phillies fire the manager, the Sixers saved their season. The
Johnny
Flyers.
Mac got bumped from my show yesterday.
Yeah, I got bumped.
Whoa.
I got
that
bumped.
That is not what I expected to hear this morning. J-Mac
I'm like Matt Damon on the Jimmy Kimmel show. That was for anybody who watched that.
What happened? The Rob Thompson news broke. Mike, you had to bring in a Phillies guy.
We had we got an avalanche of people who we just had a ton of people getting involved on the conversation, and then Rob Thompson spoke, and we had a couple of things there. We had Dombrowski speaking, so our show just got untenable.
Yeah, it's understandable. He's a slightly bigger name, so I deferred. I didn't raise a fit by any stretch of the imagination. So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the rare times that the Eagles take a back seat. But even when they take a back seat, Mike, there's still Alec Halby gets up and leaves. There's always something going on with this team.
Yeah.
They've lost 3 high-profile executives, and Howie knew he was going to lose some. I think Alec was the biggest surprise because he didn't leave with a new job in hand. The other guys had the new jobs. They've done it before, but at some point, does the churn hurt you?
It's exactly what I questioned yesterday, because we did do football at 4, so we had a slight little football segment, and we asked that question is, they keep getting poached, and they keep getting poached, and they keep getting poached, and they just keep on going. At what point, though, do you run out of lieutenants in there to keep helping you out, to be your right-hand man and be the next guy up, or girl? They've had girls poached in the past, too. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, he's been doing this a long time. How much is he solely hands-on, and how much do these people legitimately give him, are the reason why he has been so successful? So far, it seems that it doesn't matter who they take. He's still done a good job. In fact, many people think that this draft here, that again, he lapped the field in that. Now, these guys were all here. They've left afterwards, but so we shall see moving forward here. It eventually, you would think, would catch up, because in the coaching circles, we see these coaches struggle when you start to poach their assistants from them. You wonder why it hasn't happened in the front office.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how much of an impact it makes. Mike, speaking of something the front office just accomplished, they just got done the NFL draft. They drafted 8 players. They signed 8 undrafted free agents, or at least that's how it's reported right now. And they also made the big trade for Jonathan Grenard. Mike, just your big picture takeaway on what the Eagles were able to do in the NFL draft this weekend.
Well, I'm a big fan of Mekhi Lemon. Love that pick. I think he's exactly what the Eagles have lacked, even in their successful years. Like, they've always had AJ and Devontae who could go downfield and make plays and bail you out. One thing they have lacked, really going back to, I guess, the year Aguilar had in 2017, is a slot guy that can make plays in the middle of the field, reverse field pivot, just catch the ball in the middle of the field. Now, Aguilar didn't have the best hands in the world. I would think that Lemon would be your Puka Nacua, your Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, the guy who catches just everything and does it in the middle of the field, short route, intermediate. He can catch the ball down the field. He's just a football player. He's not John Ross fast. John Ross gets picked number 9 because he has 4.2 speed, but he can't play. This guy doesn't run 4.2, but he can play. And I think it's exactly what this team has liked. I kept saying over there, they just never have a real slot guy. So love that pick. As much as I like that pick, I might like Eli Stowers even more. Tremendous. I mean, what he's going to bring to them is going to be very interesting to see how they use him in this first year. In the
You got the
double
Vandy
tight,
shirt on too, Mike.
I do have the Vandy shirt,
Yeah.
not for Eli, but I did visit the campus, and I just think he's a great fit for what Mannion wants to do, and very interested. In fact, I definitely am interested to see how much him and Goddard work in tandem this year. You remember Tucker Kraft and what he brought to Green Bay, and then what their offense looked like without him in the offense last year. So I think the tight end going to be a huge spot here. And then they get Bell. One question we asked, I don't know if you guys have brought it up this week, is do they look at him at guard, or is that a Stoutland thing? They did put Mekhi Becton in there at right guard, and that was something that worked out great for them. Bell is every much as big as Becton is. Can you look at him at right guard and see if he can play in the interior? He's only played really left tackle. 6'9", 350 pounds. That's a massive human being. Can you imagine him playing next to Jordan Mailata? I know Landon Dickerson's there, so that's probably not going to happen.
Jalen Hurts better get a step ladder.
Exactly. Especially if you're going to throw the ball in the middle of the field more.
Yeah, right.
And then obviously the quarterback is more of a Taysom Hill type of player. I think that's going to be very interesting to see if you're going to use him as like an H-back or have him kind of incorporate it. He was a 5th-round pick. You don't normally get rid of those guys, so they must have had some sort of reason why they targeted that. Uar Bernard, I think we're all kind of just wondering, what can this guy really do with the freakish measurables that he brought to the table? They hit on Mailata. Can they do it again? That would be unbelievable. So I think they definitely had, and then the Grenard trade obviously is really the finishing touch other than safety. I know they drafted a safety, Wisniewski, but getting Grenard now really gives them a legitimate pass rusher. And if they can find that safety, you might have an argument that this defense is more talented or better than last year's defense. Is that crazy to say?
No, I don't think it's crazy to say.
No, I don't think it's crazy. I think you're more athletic with Grenard and Jod Campbell.
I think you upgraded Adoree Jackson. I think if you also project in that players get better
and Reek Woolen, athleticism too. You're way more athletic, so obviously, quicker, faster. Now, N'Kobe had the instincts. Jalen Phillips, great all-around player. You still need the safety, but I think the potential is there for the defense to be even better than it was last year.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you guys brought up Grenard and also throwing Dontavian Wicks, because they're part of this draft as well, and they're going to be contributors, day one contributors. In the case of Grenard, he's going to be, I think, one of the stars of the defense. Then you have Mekhi Lemon. But I do want, on your first 2 picks, a little bit of pushback, Mike. I'm like,
yeah, sure.
All right, Mekhi Lemon, I agree. I love the player, but to catch everything, you got to throw the ball to him. They don't throw the ball over the middle. Does that change? Number one. And Eli Stowers, I don't get the fit for Sean Mannion. I think if you look at the Shanahan tight ends, the McVay tight ends, it's George Kittle. You mentioned Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is a monster.
Yeah,
He's
they're big dudes.
260 pounds. And I think everybody looks at the passing game. And look, Eli Stowers, tremendous athlete. He's got an NBA vertical. But I mean, he doesn't block.
Yeah.
And you got to set the edge for that wide zone, that stretch running game. So how much?
That's why I said I like him, the player. I'm not as sure how they fit him in, but I certainly like the talent that he brings. Lemon.
Oh yeah, talent wise, yeah.
Yeah, Lemon, I think, is a great fit for what this team has lacked, even in this offense, that offense, all the offense. They just have never used a guy like a true slot. The fact that he's a true slot, well, he lined up in the slot about 65% of the time in college, so he can do both. Where Aguilar really struggled was he was good in the slot. Then you moved him to the outside. He couldn't track the ball. He had problems on the outside. I feel like Lemon could serve both, but more so in the slot.
Do you guys think they move more people around this year? Like with A.J. Brown, they never really lined him up anywhere else. I've always thought they could move Devontae around a little bit more than they did. Now you have Lemon, Smitty. You have a little bit more versatility in that receiving group. You guys think they could, Johnny Mac, I'll ask you too. You guys think they could move some of those guys around, try and keep defenses on their toes with different looks like some of these other teams do?
I would think so. I mean, if you watch a lot of where Puka Nacua, he's lined up all over the place. You see Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I know they don't run a similar style of players. You've got the Green Bay guys, constant, they're not lined up in the same spot. I mean, San Francisco. Now, Debo's a weird player when he was there because he's kind of not a true wide receiver, but they moved him and lined him up all over the field. So, yeah, I would think you're going to see a lot more flipping to the field, changing. But ultimately, you have a true slot receiver for the first time in quite a while here.
Well, I'll say this: they used Devontae Smith a shitload in the slot last year, and they
might have lined him up there, but I don't know that they ever threw him the ball from there.
Well, they don't throw the ball. That's my concern. With all due respect to Mekhi Lemon, he's not Devontae Smith. And in fact, I'll try to look it up while I'm talking, but yeah, that's my concern. They just don't. The quarterback's not comfortable throwing over the middle of the field. Now, is that his fault, or is it Nick Sirianni banging in the risk-averse philosophy into his head? I'm sure that's had an impact on him. That's sort of what Boston Scott alluded to with his tweets yesterday. Devontae Smith was in the slot 507 times last year. He was out wide 434. So to me, it's not a matter of just where a guy lines up. I mean, you got to utilize it. Like, to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got to give him the traffic. To be a Puka Nacua, you got to give him the traffic. Certainly not going to get that early in his career. Hopefully he can develop into that kind of ceiling. But Devontae Smith is that guy. And that's my one concern. A little bit of a redundancy. Can Mekhi Lemon play outside? Now, the best example of Justin Jefferson is, he played at LSU, and he's a slot guy because he played in the slot at LSU. Well, they had Jamar Chase, they had Terrace Marshall. And he came to the pros.
Can you imagine saying that now? Yeah, they had Terrace Marshall.
Well, he was a great college player.
I know. I'm just saying, thinking about that now, Terrace Marshall obviously can't get a job now, but Justin Jefferson couldn't surpass him at the collegiate level.
Well, he surpassed him. It was just that Marshall's 6'3". He's not going in the slot. Jefferson was far more productive. He got the ball more. He played in the slot because he could do it, but he could also play outside. That's my point. We have to see, can Mekhi Lemon play outside, or is he strictly a slot player? Maybe he can, just because you mentioned the heavy slot numbers at USC. Well, they had Jacoby Lane. They had other receivers as well. Maybe he's the best fit because he's the best route runner. Maybe he can do both, and that would help the Eagles.
Yeah, and that's where, we don't really know a lot of what this is going to what's going to happen here with Mannion's thoughts and what he likes to do, coupled with Hurts's deficiencies and what we've seen from him in the past. How do they marry those together? That is going to be really the question, I'm sure, of training camp.
That's the $1 million question, Mike. I mean, that's what it is right there. You just surmised it.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know. We've heard about Jalen being adverse to, certain stuff. Is he going to be open to this? I mean, is he going to be fighting back against it? Are you going to see this butting of heads, because they have clearly set this offense up to him and said, we are throwing the ball over the middle of the field, whether you like it or not. And he's going to have to, he's going to have to evolve into that passer.
How much changes from a defensive standpoint against the Eagles? I mean, you see video, I saw people on, the people on social media, the army of Hurts defenders, which is fine, but there's an army out there, they put up the clips of and quote, Jalen can't throw over the middle. And then there's like a montage of him throwing the ball over the middle. Obviously, different circumstances, you get different defenses and things of that nature.
Highlight scouting.
I think Hurts can do it. The question to me is, can he do it consistently? But how much changes, like defensively, John and Mike, when you're doing that more as compared to when your primary's outside the numbers and you might toss in the middle of the field every once in a while when somebody's wide open. But if that's like your area of attack, defenses, I would presume, would change the way they play you. That's where I think the challenge will come.
Right, and I guess the question is, what is the ceiling in year one of learning that and feeling comfortable with that? Do you get comfortable by the 9th week? Do you get comfortable by the 4th week? Do you get comfortable by 14th week? How advanced can you get when you're trepidatious in learning that right off the bat? It's not like something that I would imagine he's probably a little bit like, okay, I'm going to have to do this. I'm not thrilled about it. Maybe he is. I don't know. It doesn't seem that he is, based on a lot of the reporting is that, it's not something that he likes to do all that much. Maybe he's overly excited about learning or adding another wrinkle to his offense. But if that's not the case and he has to kind of like get comfortable with this, how long into this season does he feel comfortable enough that this offense can take off?
Yeah, it's certainly going to be the story how Jalen Hurts sort of evolves in this new style of offense, or if it goes back to a Kellen Moore mindset and scaling it back after trying it. And that's going to be the whole story of the season. Just because Zander and I were talking about it, just to wrap things up on Lemon, would you be, and I brought up Dontavian Wicks from the perspective of, all right, you're changing offensive scheme. He's ahead of everybody when it comes to learning Sean Mannion's terminology and the system as a whole. To me, it wouldn't upset me at all if Dontavian Wicks is the wide receiver 2 week 1 and Mekhi Lemon's the 3rd. But by midway through the season or so, then I think it would be upsetting. Do you need Mekhi Lemon on the field week 1, no matter what, as the wide receiver 2?
I would think he'd be out there regardless, though. No, I mean, you don't think?
Oh well, yeah. You're hoping he could beat out Hollywood Brown at the bare minimum.
Yeah, that would be disappointing if I think it. No, I think in fact I'm kind of entering the year thinking that I guess I don't know. Is it fair to say in our minds the slot guy is generally quote unquote the 3rd guy, even though it might not be?
They are, because sometimes in 12 there's only 2 receivers on the field, and they're
like if you go back to the 17 team, it's really the last time they utilized that slot position like pretty with a high volume. You would say that Aguilar had a higher volume than Torrey Smith did.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because Smith, while he was an outside receiver and maybe the quote unquote second guy, he was really the take the top off.
Well, a lot of slot guys like Amon, you name the biggest 2, Puka and Amon. Now they play outside as well. You got to be on the field. You got to play both. But the majority of their time is certainly with Brown is inside. And he's the heavy traffic guy. So,
and by the way, keep in mind, all USC guys and Lemon worked out all summer long with Brown. So a lot of the same type of tendencies and things that they are going to do are going to mirror each other a lot.
Yeah. How about this? How about if Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon are your 2 top receivers and Eli Stowers is your slot receiver? Is that the perfect scenario?
I actually thought, I was actually thinking almost the other way. Would they play Stowers some in the slot, but even split him out wide a little bit and give you that bigger?
He's actually got the speed to do it.
Right. A bigger kind of AJ Brown physical kind of guy. Amon's not the biggest guy in the world either. I mean, Lemon 5'11". I think Amon's no more than 6 foot. Puka's the biggest. I think Puka appears to be the smallest guy of that group. He's actually the biggest guy of that group.
Oh, he's a big
yeah, but I mean,
dude,
but I think when you see Puka, because he's always kind of compact, he's catching the ball, he keeps himself low, he doesn't like to he's spinning around, and you think of him as more of like an Edelman size type of guy. But Edelman would be more in the Lemon role. But Amon's not a big. He's only like 6'2" or 6 foot as well. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept Lemon there and maybe split Sowers out a little bit and kind of gave you that look. But I will say this. There's one thing for certain. They have more options than they've had in a long time. Oh, because we're not even talking about, say, Hollywood Brown and seeing him. Wicks's name, we're really kind of just glancing over here. Where before, it was Brown and it was Smith, and that's all you had in that past game at wide receiver.
By the way, I was reading the Bill Walsh thing about it. Nobody gives a shit where somebody gets drafted the minute they're drafted. In other words, in an NFL building, it's like, the minute you get in the building, you're judged on how you are as a player. Puka's a great example. That dude was a 5th round pick.
Amon-Ra, 4th round.
And why? Because they can't run.
Yeah.
Puka ran a 4. I had to look at it. He ran a 4.57. Can't run because he's 6'2".
By the way, you know how fast 4.57 is?
Oh, I know. Well, bro, we're talking.
I love it. It's like one guy runs a 4.2 and he can fly, and the other guy runs a 4.5 and he can't.
Well,
run.
There is a big difference between 4.2 and 4.5. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay that, but if you're 4.2 and you can't catch, you can't run routes, and if you're 4.57 like Puka, and you can run every route in the book, and you can play, and you're big and you're physical, he's got to, stop the drinking. But other than that, I mean, how do you miss on that guy after watching him play? Well, and as a rookie, by the way, as a 5th round rookie, he had 105 receptions for 1,486 yards.
Cooper Kupp, another guy. I mean, these guys who and that's where Lemon fits into the category of just football player. I mean, just knows the game, runs the route. 101 targets, 1 drop last year. The guy just loves the play, and realistically, if you go back and look at his where he lines up, 63% in the slot, 38% on the outside. His short catches, everything. Intermediate, the deep ball. He's a 3-level player. Most of his damage is done short and intermediate, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been able to go out and do other things. So just a football player. And if he has 4.2 speed like John Ross does, he's probably picked in the top 5. And by the way, the fact that he got to where he was,
guys,
John, how much of where he ended up getting drafted is because there were some reports that he just completely blew a lot of his interviews, and that people just were like, "This guy's a kind of out there." Which my buddy suggests that he didn't want to get. He was smart. This guy was so smart that he didn't want to get drafted by one of those bad teams, so he purposely blew his.
I don't know. I think he's an SC guy, so I'm sure he was hoping the Rams would take him, number 1. But, at 13, and that was where everybody, I think you forget. Yeah, you see. Well, that looks like a perfect fit for the Rams. And it was there was a bunch of consensus picks, like him to the Rams was a consensus pick pretty much, like 80% of the mock drafts, just because it made so much sense. And then when you don't go there, then, some teams in between 13 and 20, they don't want receivers. They're looking at other positions. And
do you think the Eagles tried to get Freeling at 19 and the Panthers said, "We know you want Freeling. We're not making that deal"?
Well, I do think what number 1 would have been Caden Proctor. I know that. I know that. But he went way early. And I do believe Freeling was the second guy, but I haven't gotten that locked down to this point.
We had on Thursday, Sal had been on with us and said the Eagles had called the Jets and the Bucks 15 and 16, and that those two picks everybody knew were for sale. So everybody trying to get up to 15 and 16, are they trying to get there to get Freeling, or are they trying to get up there to get Lemon?
Yeah, like I said, my guess would be Freeling, and Lemon would have been the second guy. They had 15 guys, so Howie was honest about that. They thought we're going to go, the top 15, and Lemon was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally been their history when they have this sort of, and it's usually much smaller. It's usually 4 or 5 cluster of players, and realistic. Some of those 15 are not realistic. Jeremiah Love, yada yada. They knew certain guys wouldn't be there, but of that 15 group, I do believe Freeling was ahead of Lemon, and Lemon was the last one when they went up to go get him in 20. But don't have that locked down. Proctor was certainly above him, but again, Proctor never got close. And that's been his recent history. He's got this, and when there's a drop off, so when you look at it, because I think, one of the things that people don't understand is, well, you don't get the tackles you want, so you just go to Max Ianashore or whomever. No, then you pivot off because you have Mekhi Lemon as a much better ranked player.
See, I know they need offensive line depth. I'm not questioning that, but I'm not as high on you had to take a lineman in the first round, and because this team is now I get it. Like they've taken Dickerson, who was a guy who would have been a first round pick had he not had injuries. Juergens you got in the second round, but they have had guys in the past. I mean, Mailata, for God's sake, they got in the 7th round. That's a oddity story, but they have had guys in the past that have been very successful players that you can get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round to play offensive line. And if you're just looking for depth right now, and then you can evolve them into the eventual starter, I didn't think you needed to take a guy in the first round that realistically was there to supplant somebody. So that's why I like the fact that they stuck true to the board and went with Lemon.
No, you never have to, and that's what Howie's good at. But they do, and they've been trying for a couple of years. They do want to set up the heir apparent for Lane Johnson, and this was a year because of the depth, and they liked at least a group of that tackles. But one thing, and Zander can tell you, I said every week, they don't like all 7. I guarantee you that. So everybody, well, there's 7 offensive tackles that might go in the first round. The Eagles were never going to like all 7. They would have 2 or 3 that they probably liked, that they did like. Blake Miller, who ended up going 17. I don't think they would have taken him. I think they had Lemon over him. But Proctor and Freeling, I think, were ahead of Lemon. Proctor, I know. Freeling, don't, but I get a feeling he was. And then you shift to the better player, regardless of position. And they got somebody they really liked in the 3rd round with Markel Bell. And guess what? Now nobody will care that he's not going to play. So in a lot of ways, that's better because he can sit and learn behind 2 great tackles.
I didn't hear Bell's. I did hear him say that he thinks he's still growing, but other than that, I haven't really heard. Did anybody ask if he has ever played guard at all?
No,
I mean the obvious is his size,
yeah,
Becton's size. That would say, hey, they, and that was a Stoutland thing. You don't know that they're gonna, look at him in that capacity. In this
6'9", man, that's got to be tough for Jalen.
Yeah, well, Howie was asked, and Howie said, no, we're going to play him at tackle. So I mean, that's the more important. I'm sure Markel Bell would say he wasn't asked the question. I asked him if he played right tackle before, which he has not, but he's been working with Duke Manyweather, and he's been doing is working on right tackle because most teams project him to be on the right side at the NFL level. So
because Becton was like 6'7", this guy's even 2 inches bigger than that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's even I think he's 6'9 1/4. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Howie said just tackle. Now you never know down the road, but yeah, that's difficult for Jalen. So he's going to be the heir apparent to Lane Johnson, and it'll be, can Chris Cooper develop him, basically.
Right.
But that'll be a year at least, and I think everybody's fine with it. Now, I'll leave it there with you, Mike, at Mike Gill's Show. Make sure you follow Mike on the X platform, YouTube page at Mike Gill's Show as well. 97.3 The Sports Bash. A lot of Sixers talk, a lot of Flyers talk, a lot of Phillies talk. Moving on from Topper, Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball. Boy, Mike, by the way, real quick, my tangent. I had no idea Preston Mattingly was the Phillies GM, because I'm not a Phillies guy. And he's not really the GM, obviously, because he's not running things. But
yeah,
I had no idea.
Now the GM is a GM in name, and the president of baseball operations actually runs the roster.
I had no idea. But anyway, I don't think a lot of these guys in the draft class are going to play this year significant roles. In fact, I only think one is Mekhi Lemon. And probably Eli Stowers is probably the third tight end, because they'll probably use Dallas Goedert, and they'll probably use Johnny Munt to set the edge. And Eli Stowers will sort of have that limited role.
I guess, Wisniewski, does he have a shot to compete with? Because I would imagine if they don't want Epps and Makuba to be their starters, they're either going to have to make a trade and bring somebody else in, or does Wisniewski compete for that job?
Well, I think if they don't bring somebody in, sure, he'll compete. But I do think they're going to bring somebody in at some point.
Right. So he would be a long shot guy that has a shot to make an impact.
So I think you got to hammer it home, and Howie tried to hammer it home. Look, this draft includes Jonathan Grenard and Dontavian Wicks as well. They gave up 2 third-round picks, 1 future. They gave up a 5th rounder for Wicks and a 6th rounder. If you add those 2 into it, and you have Lemon and Grenard and Wicks, it looks a lot better. Do you think people will add that in, or they'll just say, this guy's got to get on the field?
They normally won't add it in, but you're right. I mean, you have a 3-day period to make a flurry of roster additions and improvements. And part of those 3 days included Grenard. And, as you mentioned, the pick that you give up, Wicks is now there. So he does kind of get included into that. And I said in this draft, much like I think we talked about it last week, the Bengals trading for Dexter Lawrence is a better player than whoever they get at 10. So in this particular draft class, you take Grenard for a 3rd-round pick. Now, next year's 3rd-round pick, he's probably better than that player too, but that's supposedly a better draft class. But these drafts are getting interesting because this NIL money, you see in the NBA, only 70 kids entered the draft early this year. 70. You know how many entered the draft early 5 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
380 kids entered the draft early. And this year, only 71. That is a huge difference.
Big problem
now. Yes.
It's a big problem.
So just think about that. In the NFL, if these kids aren't going to the draft early now, there's less players to choose from. So the talent is starting to deplete more. So much like college, I was having a conversation with a parent yesterday. These high school kids are not getting looked at by colleges anymore like they used to be, because they can go to the portal and just grab a kid who's already played college football. Why am I going to go to, Atlantic City High School to go find a kid who's green as grass, where I can go and get a kid who played at Rutgers for 2 years and just bring him to me, or played at a smaller school? That's what's going on in the draft now. These guys are saying, I'm going to stay in college, get paid, and now your portal has less people to choose from. So if you can get established NFL players, you do it.
Yep, I'm with you. It's a big issue, and I'll tell you what, we were talking about him earlier. Jake Rosenberg is taking advantage of that. He was on the ground floor. teaching all these colleges how to run their program like a pro system and going and getting people like free agency, basically, out of the portal.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's happening in basketball. When I saw that yesterday, I actually saw that yesterday. 71 players declared early for the draft. Like 5 years ago, it was 384 players. That's over 300 players. Crazy.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
College is a mess, man. It is a mess.
Horrible.
I don't know how you fix
Like,
it either.
I
We're
was
gonna
talking
have to
to the
do
parent
something
yesterday.
quick.
I was talking to the parent yesterday, and they're basically saying at this point, it's almost better just to go to the JUCO route, play there for 2 years, and hope you get noticed there, as opposed to,
That's what Markel Bell did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least the colleges are looking at the JUCO ranks, saying these guys are getting college innings under their belt or games under their belt. I'll go there. I have a relationship with the coach, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to go down the road to my local high school and start. I don't have time for that. I don't have time. I'm looking.
Well, and then you got Keyshawn James Newby as an example. Their 7th round, their last pick. They had 3 7th round picks, but he was.
I think
the
he
last
just transferred again.
Yeah, exactly. He was at Montana Tech for 2 years. Then he went to Idaho for 2 years, and then he finished at New Mexico.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what I would say to that pick is, last year they took a guy in the
Antoine
7th
Powell
round,
Ryland. Yeah.
Antoine Powell Riley, who led the country in sacks. And I don't know what he's doing today, but he did not make it.
He broke up. Not only that, he broke Bruce Smith's Virginia Tech sack records.
Yeah.
I was jacked up on that one, folks. Let me tell you.
Good dude, by the way. He's on Cincinnati, so he's still kicking around.
Oh, that's good.
Still kicking around the league.
I like
Newby,
this. Do you guys watch any UFL?
No.
No.
I've seen a little bit here.
I mean, I watch a little bit here. My buddy is the head coach in Orlando. Our buddy Colin Thompson.
Anthony Beck.
And Colin Thompson's the offensive coordinator there. So
I did not know that.
I didn't know Colin was there.
I got to get Colin on the show, man.
Colin is the offensive coordinator, and Anthony is the head coach in Orlando. So I'll tune into some of their games. And but they were talking about how, like, the kid like Pavia, who was a star.
Oh, he's the UFL guy, man.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But, like, if they could get a guy like him, that league, like, if they can try to get some of those name players and get them there, and that's where a guy like Antoine Powell Riley, you go there and maybe rack up 10.5 sacks in a season and get your name on the radar again. Like, a lot of these guys maybe need to go there and get their name on the radar again, as opposed to just like,
but guys like Pavia can stay in college for 6 years and make $4 million or whatever.
Well, and he's out. He tried to apply to get another year, and they.
I know he had to leave. That's the only reason he left. If he could have played 10 years, he would have played 10 years.
Well, at some point you wonder. Well, I think they just put some legislation that you can only play five consecutive years. Is it?
Yeah.
But I was going to say, if you're not getting picked up by the professionals and you're getting paid to play in college, you're thinking, well, why can't I just keep playing if no one else is picking me up? Like, someone's going to fight for that.
Well, Trinidad Chambliss bought the NCAA to come back to Ole Miss because he'd be taking a pay cut if he went to the
Hall
NFL.
Basketball just had a kid who's been playing in the G League. And I know this has happened a few times. We've had college kids go to the G League and then go back to college. But the Seton Hall just signed a kid who played in the G League, a game that I called. The guy was in the G League, and he went and just declared to go to Seton Hall. I said, how is this happening?
Yeah, it's a mess, man. It is a mess.
Yeah, it is. They need a commissioner or something. Let's see what they do. They got to do something, but we'll see. All right, Mike, we appreciate you joining in, man. Make sure you guys follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN, and we'll see what happens, Mike. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, brother.
All right, guys. See you.
Right,
thanks, bud.
You're joining me right here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Mike Gill. Always appreciate him taking the time to join us today. A lot of good talk today, Johnny Mac, not only in Eagle Land, but also all across the Philadelphia sports. We're like a melting pot of sports discussion right now with the Phillies and the Flyers. And
a lot of stuff going on, man.
That's
You
where
would
it's
think
gotta
the
be fun.
Eagles. You would think the Eagles couldn't gain any footing, but man, they just every day it's something. It's amazing with that team. It is amazing.
They're like the Cowboys with success.
Exactly, exactly, and
Yeah.
not and without the stupidity as well.
Yeah, obviously, definitely none of that.
Um,
A well-run team, but boy, they do have a lot of drama surrounding them, John, pretty consistently.
yeah, yeah. Well, part of that is the passion of the fan base. So
Yeah, but I don't remember there being this much. I guess it's always been there.
well, social media. It's always been. I mean, like, look at Boston Scott. Did you see Boston Scott stuff?
Yeah,
It's like what? And then there's fans attacking him. It's like, what? Leave him alone. He's giving his opinion. Obviously, he's close to the players. Obviously, he's going to take the player mindset.
What did you make of that? Was that an attack on Sirianni? Clearly, right?
I don't